Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel, where today we are taking a look at the logos of the Southern Conference, which is an NCAA Division I conference. Specifically, they play in the FCS when it comes to Division I college football, and that's kind of what we've been doing for the last few weeks on this channel, because I'm a huge fan of FCS college football, and Montana is looking awesome this year. In fact, I think for this video, we got to pull out Monty. Kind of put them over here to the side. As a note, one of these schools that we're going to look at today and talk about doesn't actually have a football program, so there's technically only 9 FCS teams in the Southern Conference, and I'll make a note of that as we get to it, but I'm still going to include it because they are a full member in every other sport. As always, disclaimer, this is just my opinions, so if you agree or disagree, that's cool. Just let me know down in the comments how you feel about this ranking, and let me know what you're about and how you feel about the Southern Conference. This is an awesome conference in college football. Super excited to talk about it. Let's go ahead and kick it off with number 10, what I consider the worst logo in the Southern Conference. It's going to give us the Wofford Terriers. This, honestly, I'm so sorry to say, or maybe I'm not even really that sorry to say, this is a private school.
But I know something about you. You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school. What's the matter, dog? You in Paris? This guy's a gangster. His real name is Clarence. And Clarence lives at home with both parents. And Clarence's parents have a real good marriage. This guy don't want to battle. He's shook. Cause ain't no such thing as halfway crook.
Just a very wussy looking logo. I'm sorry, kind of not sorry that much actually. And if we consider some of their older logos that they've used, they've really kind of hit the mark as far as making something that looked a little bit tougher and a little bit more fierce and intimidating than this current version of what they have, which is just honestly, maybe I am being a little mean. I kind of am sorry at this point. This is one of the worst logos in college athletics that we've discussed on this channel, and I'm tired of looking at it. I know you probably are too at this point, so let's move on from this. This is something. At number 9, we're looking at the Eastern Tennessee State University Buccaneers. Such a mouthful of a name to say just right off the bat. I feel exhausted just saying Eastern Tennessee State University Buccaneers. I gotta catch my breath. Pretty cool logo here. I especially really like the logos. That bold use of that blue and yellow just look really nice. They contrast really well. And I really like the subtle nod of using the outline, the silhouette of the state of Tennessee in the middle of the E here. I do think overall this is pretty strong, and simplicity works in its favor. We're going to see another logo that's kind of similar to this coming up here in a little bit. Where this kind of loses me is the opposite of what we had with Wofford, that kind of focused on the Terrier as their logo. This just has, you know, an E for Eastern, and they are the Buccaneers. And so I would really much rather see an actual Buccaneer implemented here, which they have done historically in the past with some of their logos that they've used. They have definitely focused more on the Buccaneer. I feel that these are just a little bit stronger from like a branding standpoint. I just like the emphasis placed on the Buccaneer as opposed to this E, which again is not bad for what it is, but I do think this program can just lean a little bit more heavily into the Buccaneers and create something a little stronger overall. At number 8, we've got a pretty unique school here. This is the Virginia Military Institute, which is one of 2 senior military colleges that we're going to talk about in the Southern Conference, which is just kind of a very unique sort of system of higher education as far as those SMC goes, the senior military colleges. Hence why the team name for the school is the Cadets, which is kind of like a play on cadets, which is like a soldier or an officer in training. It's a very unique, very historic school, and I'm a big fan of the actual university itself. When it comes time to this logo, this is a very strong branding, and it has looked so good over the years. Like historically, this is a beautiful, well done, well designed logo. But this current version with kind of these like almost like Ronald McDonald-y kind of colors is just a big kind of clashing mess, and I think that it can just be tuned up a little bit, or at least better served in just a silhouette or a black and white version. I think that looks so much stronger. But overall, I am a huge fan of this school, and the logo, you know, as horrid as I feel that those colors are, it's very cool overall. This logo is very nice. At number 7, we've got the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Is a team known as the Mocs, and there is a very interesting history behind that name. It's actually pretty cool to get into. Historically, Mocs was short for moccasins, and they use some Native American imagery to, you know, kind of be like the representation of their name, and it's been phased out, thankfully, in the last 30 or so years. I really couldn't find too many old logos in reference to Native American imagery, aside from this helmet, and I'm very thankful that this logo is gone, because what they have now that we can see here, this bold C, it's very nice, actually. They refer to it as the Power C, and it's apparently something you make a hand signal for by going like this. I don't know. I don't really see it. We can see that kind of in the negative space of that C, We can see what appears to be like a railroad spike, which kind of makes sense because since they sort of revisioned their branding away from the moccasin, this team put more emphasis into the idea that Mox is short for mockingbird, which is actually the state bird of Tennessee. So which is why we can see in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had some of these logos here, which look awesome. We have a mockingbird that's driving a locomotive, which is kind of like a nice nod to the relevance of the railroad history throughout the university and the city of Chattanooga. So I think that that is really cool. These are just really neat ties to the state bird of Tennessee and the actual like history of the city and the university with the railroad. But the Power C, it's not bad. I'm down with it. I can get behind it. Actually pretty cool. I'm really excited to take a look at our next one at number 6, the Samford Bulldogs. Pretty unremarkable name. We've seen Bulldogs come and go on this channel. This is a team name that's kind of a dime a dozen. This particular Bulldog is stylized very nicely, and I would actually have it ranked higher, but what is driving me insane about this logo is the balance or lack thereof. Like, I'm not a graphic designer by any means. I just really like sports and sports logos. And I think that this is one of the most unbalanced logos that I've ever seen, or that we've definitely ever talked about on this channel, where we have on the left side, it's really stacked with that bulldog over Sam. And on the right, it's just the rest of the team name with Ford and nothing above it. So it just, I just hate that there's this whole gap on the top right side where there's nothing above the word Ford, and the bulldog is just stacked completely on the left side of the text. It drives me crazy. Like, he could be centered up just in the middle of the text, or we could get rid of the text altogether and just have a logo that's based off of just the bulldog, which we do see in alternate versions. And we do see a version also where the bulldog is just stacked above SAM. I've said Samford and Sam too many times now with looking at this logo, and it just doesn't even sound like a real school anymore. So let's move on. This is UNCG, also known as the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. This is the one school that I mentioned at the beginning of this video that does not have a football program, but they're pretty well known for their basketball program. I know I was kind of familiar with the team itself, but not the logo specifically as I was putting these logos together. And the more I looked at this, the more I really liked it. This is, again, very bold. We see a lot of blue and yellow bold lettering. This is the third logo that we've looked at now that has that vibe, with the blue and yellow being just very bold and the text just being very sharp. And I appreciate that. And I really like the Spartan. He looks awesome and he is stacked really nicely. Samford could learn a thing or two about looking at this logo here. And I also do appreciate that the UNC is white, with the G in Greensboro being yellow. I haven't seen it personally, but I feel like they could do a lot with that, with just kind of focusing on that big yellow G for Greensboro, kind of being like the cementing letter for the city and for the university, kind of like what we saw with Chattanooga, which is that big bold C. And the Spartan himself, again, just looks awesome. So overall, very great logos. We're kind of cracking our way into the top half, getting into the top 3 going in here, but not before we talk about it. Number 4, the Mercer Bears. Now, what's kind of funny about this logo is actually I've seen it quite a bit in profile pictures of comments that I've gotten on this channel. Most recently, that occurred with Mystic Summer 22. Thank you for your support, Mystic Summer 22, and everyone that's commented with the profile picture of Mercer. Apparently, this random guy out here in San Antonio is really speaking to the Mercer market. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it here. This is a very, very cool logo, and I'm not just saying that. Honestly, this looks like we are looking at a vintage or a throwback logo for a team. I could easily see this team rebranding here, give it like a decade or so. I can see like within that time frame, because this does just have like a very kind of like, I'd say 70s or 80s vintage look with that M in the background and kind of just like a black and white, almost like silhouetted bear in the foreground. We can see here's 2 older logos that they've used, and this bear specifically is like one of my favorite vintage logos that I've ever like featured here on this channel. Like, this is a freaking awesome logo. I love it. I love these 2 logos. I love the primary logo that we're looking at here. Again, just has a very vintage look to it. That has definitely stood the test of time. Like, this looks awesome on their football helmets. Love this logo. One of my favorites. I appreciate all the Mercer fans that comment on my channel. Coming in at number 3, we've got the other senior military college to explore in the Southern Conference. This is the Citadel, located in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. I've actually driven past this school and kind of been on campus for a minute, and really their logos have always stood out to me. This one is fairly new, and I didn't recognize it when I was putting these together. I'm used to kind of seeing some of these older logos that we can see here, especially that bulldog right there in the middle is the first sort of logo that comes to mind when I think of the Citadel. But they've modernized their look a little bit with using this C with the star in the middle, and then this kind of more updated bulldog, which I don't really care about the Bulldog so much. I think that was kind of a step in a backwards direction. But looking at this C specifically, it looks great up close. It looks great from a distance. I think that this is a logo that is really going to stand the test of time. And I think that it just holds so much weight and power to it. And it does so much with so little, especially with the star in the middle of the logo. Just kind of overall, this has just like a very military vibe to it. It is a very kind of like simple, no frills, no nonsense, but very heavy weighted, powerful vibe to it. You know, it's kind of hard to put into words, but if I were to take all 10 of these logos and pick the 2 schools that were the senior military colleges, this would absolutely be my first pick. Like, there's no question that this is a senior military college based on this logo. It's awesome. It's so effective, and it is perfect for what the Citadel represents and what it is. And this was a fantastic change from some of their old logos. This keeps some of that history and that energy to it, but just a more modernized, clean version. And yeah, this thing is just, it's beautiful. This is great. At number 2, for some similar reasons, in the sense that we're doing a lot with seemingly very little, this is the Furman Paladins, one of the most unique names in all of college athletics. There's not a single other team that's named the Paladins. They have this awesome tradition of entering football games with this knight on a horse. One of the coolest traditions in all of college football. Like, this is just so sick. Historically, they've really leaned into this kind of like Knights of the Round Table kind of vibe. With a name like Paladins, you would probably expect that. This logo right here is just a thing of beauty. This was probably on like a program of some sort, or like a student guide back in the day, but my God, this is just so beautiful. This looks beautiful on a helmet and their uniforms. This is kind of one of those like all-encompassing, all-transcending logos that is not different from like the academic logo, because that's something we haven't explored a whole lot on this channel. But 99.9% of the time for universities that we're talking about here, the academic logo is different from the athletic logo. But I think that this Furman F is just kind of the ultimate logo in working for both the academic and the athletic departments for a school. That's also part of the reason why I really enjoyed logos like Chattanooga and the Citadel. I feel like those C's are just so strong and can really represent both the academic and athletic departments in your school. So yeah, this Furman F, beautiful, doing so much with so little. But let's kind of turn the page here and look at our number 1 choice. This is going to be the Western Carolina Catamounts. Just an all-time logo. Something about purple really like resonates with me, which is why I have this and Furman for 1 and 2. Just a very underutilized and underrepresented and underappreciated color in college athletics. And this purple catamount here is just so beautiful in the sense that it's tough and fierce. We've kind of come full circle here from Wofford with having one of the wussiest, scariest pushover logos in all of college athletics. This is the opposite of that. This has personality. This has ferociousness. And it is just gorgeous overall. Again, shout out to some old logos here. These are my favorite that we've explored in this league as well. So I don't want to give the impression that these are influencing by basing how much I love the old logos on how much I love the current logo. But we can just see a pattern here of Western Carolina always having a bit of personality from their catamount and really leaning into the purple elements of the school. We can kind of see the more modern version here is kind of more of like a purple and gold kind of color, whereas before it was purple and just a lot more vibrant yellow. And I think I like the current version a little bit more in the sense that it's a little bit more subtle with kind of this like darker golder color, and it's got some white in it with like his teeth and his eye. All 3 of those color combinations just come across so nicely. They just meld together beautifully. Not a bad thing I can say about this logo, not a bad thing I can say about the old logos. Western Carolina University, home of the Catamounts, number 1. And y'all, that's going to do it for another SCS logo ranking. We are kind of running out at this point of FCS league. So if you're an FCS fan and you haven't seen your school or your conference talked about yet at this point, just stay tuned, because chances are we're going to get to it very soon. Appreciate you guys clicking and hanging out. Comment down below. Let me know what schools, what logos are your favorite. Like and subscribe if you're new here, and look forward to seeing you in a future video.